We're back at the backyard golf course, and this area back here is the Everest Kentucky Bluegrass monostand that I seeded last fall. It's come in pretty well, but being 100% Kentucky Bluegrass, it is going to be a slow fill in. Along with the slow grow in is also this problem here. I take a lot of water off the driveway and it has been creating this washout area. And if I want to reseed this, the problem with Kentucky Bluegrass, it takes a long time to germinate. Under perfect conditions, at least 10 days. Don't mind the weeds here, we're working on getting rid of those. I love Kentucky Bluegrass, I think it is the ultimate backyard turf. However, that slow germination time is definitely a negative aspect to it. However, we're gonna shorten that and we're going to pre-germinate some seed. The nice thing about pre-germinating the seed is it's fairly easy to do and you don't need a lot of things. All you need is your seed, 2 pails, and one preferably with holes in the bottom, and a couple of paint strainers from the hardware store. The paint strainer is just going to hold your seed for the next 10 days. So I'm going to dump my seed in there. I'll tie a small knot just so that that doesn't open up on us. And there, we're ready to go. Next, we're just using regular water into 1 pail. And then I'll take the pail with the holes in it, and that fits nicely in this pail. And the water comes through, and then we just dunk our seed in there. That seed always wants to float, so I just take a rock, put it on top, and that is it. So that is all we have to do until this seed germinates, and you will see a tiny little root pop out of that seed. And at that point, you got to get it out of the paint strainer and onto your soil. That is the hard part. This is the easy part, and we'll talk about that later on the video, how to spread this stuff. But for now, we really just wait, and the only thing you have to do is change the water every day. There is some debate about the dirty water, if it's bad for the seed or natural for the seed, but I like to just change it out every day, and that's why I have the holes in the bottom of the pail. You don't have to drill holes in the bottom of your pail. You can just use a pail and dump it out. But for me, with the holes, I just sort of lift it up, put it on the concrete, and in 5 minutes, it's totally dry. You may be asking, why do I have to pre-germinate my seed? Well, you don't have to, but if you do, the best part is you only have to worry about that pail of seed, where if I spread that Kentucky Bluegrass seed all over this property, I have to keep the entire property under optimal conditions for the next 10 to 14 days. And that is pretty hard. I'm gonna have storms show up here, hard rains, that's gonna wash and move my seed around before it gets a chance to put some roots down. And by having the seed in the pail, all I have to worry about for the next 10 days is the water in that pail. Way easier than worrying about this place. So now we wait. I'll be back out with the camera once I see some germination on that. Hopefully this place looks a little greener too. This bluegrass is starting to take off now that our soil temps have warmed up. And if you're going to do this, remember to check your seed. I'm 100% Kentucky Bluegrass, so I know all of that seed in there is going to be very slow to germinate. But if you have perennial ryegrass or something quicker, you need to get it out of that paint strainer in 5 days or less. It could be a much faster germinating seed. So check your seed before you do this. After only 12 hours, you can see how dark that water is. That is why the water changes are important. The final day of soaking this seed, I don't even see a root yet, but it's been 12 days. I have to leave the day after tomorrow, so I gotta get this seed down tomorrow at the latest. Everest Kentucky Bluegrass, it's notoriously slow to start. I think a lot of those midnight varieties were very slow to germinate. You can usually start to see some tiny white roots poking through the paint strainer, but I don't see any yet, but we have to be close. We've got our last pail of fresh water. I'm gonna leave it outside here in the sun. We'll warm that water up. I'm gonna use everything I can to get this to germinate in the next 24 hours. I'm also going to put a little bit of this black powder in the pail of water, and that is a mix of kelp and humic acid. This is an old seed starting trick from when I used to grow giant pumpkins. Not sure if it really works, but I don't think it's going to hurt. That may just give a little bit of nutrient boost to that early seed. Does it store any inside the seed as it's put into the soil? Hard to say, but we'll give it a shot. So we will let that sit and warm up, and I have to get to a little bit of soil prep. I've got some bad spots here, some very hard spots that are polished. I want to open those up, and I also have those ruts to fill in. So I want to get that all ready where I can just put the seed down next. It is finally the day to put the seed down. There are some small, tiny roots shooting through that paint strainer, so I have to get this seed down. I'm just finishing up touching up any low spots, any washout that I had from the original seeding. Not a great day to shoot video. It is overcast, there's a chance of rain, but you never really know what day you're going to get when that seed starts to germinate. I soaked that seed almost 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna try and get some of that moisture out of there so it's easier to spread. There are some tiny roots sticking out of that mesh strainer, so I think we have perfect time on this. The final step in pre-germinating grass seed is also the toughest. How do I get this seed into this spreader and have it flow nicely all over this lawn? I can't just dump this wet, clumpy grass seed in there. It's not going to work. Last fall, I applied all of that Kentucky Bluegrass the traditional way. Dry seed going into the spreader, and I just laid it out there nice and even. The problem is it took over 3 weeks in that cool temperature to actually germinate. I would have loved to have pre-germinated all of that seed, but it's just so hard to spread. I went the safe way and did it dry. So in order to spread this wet seed, I need to mix it with something dry that's going to run through my spreader. For the dry product, I'm going to go with this stuff. It is humic acid, or black earth it's called, and it is a soil amendment that is nice and dry and a good size that'll go through my spreader. There's our wet seed, and that is why it will not go through a spreader. I'm sure there's a few different materials that you can use for the dry portion of this mix. It just has to have the consistency of almost kitty litter, something that's going to go through that spreader. A lot of people will use milorganite. I just couldn't get it, so I went with this black earth. If you're going to use the black earth, I would say wear a glove. It's a little bit dirty. That went very well. I think we're ready to go. I'm super happy with the consistency. I think it's going to spread nicely. There's probably a better way to do this. All right, here we go. That spread very well. That was quick and easy. It was just like spreading granular fertilizer. I've kept some of my soaked seed here, and I'm going to hit these bare areas just with more seed. That was a light overseeding for the entire area. I definitely want to get some more seed on these bare spots. That is it. The seed is down. I went and got a wheelbarrow load of sand and capped my seeded areas with sand. The nice thing with sand is it'll hold down a little bit better than soil, and it's also a great leveling agent because it will stay there, it won't break down. So any of my low spots and these heavy water areas got the sand. Now that your seed is out of the pail and onto the ground, don't let your seed dry out. I'm gonna keep it wet here, and the nice thing is I only have to really worry about it for a couple days here. And that is the main bonus to pre-germination. I don't have to worry about this for 2 weeks. I only have to run the sprinklers here for a couple of days. I am back here finally. It's been a while. Some people take 15 minutes to shoot a 10-minute video. I've taken 2 months here to finish this up. It is now July 30th. We've got some major grow in here. This Kentucky Bluegrass has kicked off. And yes, I got some germination out of that pre-germinated grass seed, and that young seedling Kentucky Bluegrass has filled in our blank spots here. And just like back in May, don't mind the weeds here. I've got some weed growth going on here for sure. Take care of that later on in the year. I just really wanted to get this grown in with a nice stand of turf. That pre-germinated seed came up in 5 days. So I had germination in 5 days, which maybe doesn't sound great, but that is 3 times faster at least than what I would have had with dry seed. So I was happy with the results. One thing I did learn is it is difficult to document an overseeding. My Kentucky Bluegrass, the existing lawn, came up pretty strong, so it was really hard to shoot a video on some young grass seed growing up through that. Overall, with this little backyard area, I'm super happy with it. I went with that mono stand, so the only seed that you see growing here is Everest Kentucky Bluegrass. It's not even a year old yet. A year ago today, this was a big pile of sand and gravel and a mess. It was a construction zone. This concrete wasn't here, so it's really grown in well. In my head, I always wanted to reel mow back here, about 5/8 long, walk behind reel mowing. It's about the ultimate lawn that you can have. However, I've got all this concrete here, and the cylinder of the reel mower does not like going around that concrete. So I've changed it up. I have 2 different lengths here. I'm gonna mow it right now because it is unruly. It is long. It is a mess here. I've been letting it go for a couple days to shoot this video. So let's mow this now. And And there it is, all mowed, this little mini golf course. Who says you need new lawn mowers? Those are two very old and very used mowers teaming up to put down a pretty good mow. That was a lot of grass coming off there. I certainly broke the 1/3 rule, as I usually do here, but really, who has time to only remove 1/3 of the grass blade every time they mow? I certainly don't. So that's the 2-length mow pattern that I came up with just to keep my mower away from this concrete. Honestly, it just makes me laugh. I think it's funny when you come back here. It looks kind of like a mini putt golf course when you get back here. This will be the tee deck. I got to get these mats sunk into this soil next. I have some ball washers to put up. This one will go right here. It's just kind of a funny little setting as you come in, get ready to hit some balls, and you have this short to long, rough to fairway mow pattern here in a mini level. Things are greening up around here. The greens are looking great. The fairways come in nicely, and now we've got this backyard area cleaned up. It's tightened up with some thicker bluegrass coming through. That pre-germinated seed. It works. If you want to take the time and do it, it actually does work. It's going to cut your time in at least a half, probably more than that. The next video you see will be over here. I'm finally almost ready to put down some of this bluegrass. I'm gonna do it the old-fashioned way, dry seeding, just because I'm going way down past that building, so it's just too much to do pre-germinated. So that is next. I'm finally ready. Can't wait to get some more bluegrass over there, some more tee boxes. Had some people over lately. They're showing up. We're playing golf here on this half, but it'll be really nice to get some more looks on that side. And once that grass seed is planted all along that side of the property, I will be going to this big job, and that is getting these tee mats sunk into the ground here. Every shot here is about 120 yards or less, so you're using high irons and wedges. And if a few people come over for a couple hours, my tee areas are going to be destroyed. My precious bluegrass that I've worked so hard on in this video and other videos, it's just not going to last. So I have to go to these artificial tee mats. And what I want to do is cut them in, sink them into the soil, have a nice base under there so they feel real. They look good. I can mow right over them. That's the plan. So thanks for watching this one. It was a lot of fun. We got this bluegrass going. It needs some more work, but I think through time, this is going to look really good as a Kentucky Bluegrass mono stand.